Okay. I know some people were mentioning they're excited for this in the comments on our YouTube channel. Matt Zipkin is back on Sky Include YouTube. Thanks for making it, Matt. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me. Happy summer.
Happy summer. Happy
Independence Day.
America Day.
Yeah. Everybody can celebrate independence with something.
It is. We're all independent people. That's what, that's, I think, back to the core of crypto, right? Is the people and independence. So it's
right.
So yeah, we're, like you said, we're in July of 2022. Yeah, actually now almost 2.5 years or 2.25 years into the mainnet, and a lot's been happening. Lots of building, lots of discussions. So we have a list you provided to go through on this update. I'll just read them off. We're gonna try to go through all these today. Shakedex, HSD, 4v4, Bob v10, palmreader, hard fork, and then maybe a little bit of dSLD discussion. So great list today's. Do you want to say anything first before we dive in, or we can just go?
So much to talk about. Just wanted to give a progress report to you in the community about software, stuff that's happening and things that I kind of want people to pay attention to and upgrade and stuff like that.
Great.
So the first thing, and maybe I'll start screen sharing real quick.
Yeah, please go ahead. You should be able to.
Okay. Desktop one. Let me share this. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, it just loaded. I see GitHub and calendar.
Okay, can you see the Shakedex page?
I see the Shakedex domain. Yep.
Okay, great. So let's start here, because this is something that is news. So and Dick and I have been Let me. Here we go. There's a bug in Shakedex. There was a bug in Shakedex. Really quick, how Shakedex works is the owner of a name signs a series of valid transactions that transfer the name to basically anybody, as long as they pay a certain price. What they do is they create a series of transactions where that price changes. So you create a pre-signed transaction where I transfer the name to anybody who pays me 100 HNS, and then I create a series of those: 100 HNS, 50 HNS, 10 HNS, 1 HNS. Let's say there's 4 transactions like that. The way that Kuru Miyamari made this into an auction system is by adding something called lock time. This is a metadata that you can add to a transaction from Bitcoin or Handshake, where the blockchain considers the transaction invalid until a certain point in the future. So the way that Shakedex works is that we create, let's say, 4 transactions: 100, 50, 10, and 1 HNS, and we set them up in such a way that they're invalid until a certain point in the future. So the 100 HNS will be valid today. Anybody can sign it and spend it. The 50 HNS isn't valid until tomorrow. You can try to transfer the name to yourself and only pay me 50, but it'll be invalid on the blockchain because of this lock time thing, which is part of the pre-signed transaction. Okay, so that's the idea of how it works. That way you can broadcast all these transactions, post them online, and they're available in order, and so the price decreases like an auction. Okay, turns out Kuru Miyamari did not implement that entirely correctly, and I don't blame them, because JJ had actually changed the way that lock time works from Bitcoin to Handshake without documenting it. That's part of it, and then there's another part of the bug about just how the transactions were constructed. So as it turns out, the lock time was never actually enforced. This is the big reveal. This is the bug that I'm disclosing to the community right now. If somebody posted the 4 transactions, 150, 10, and 1, anybody could have just taken that 1 HNS and purchased a name for the reserve price. So this doesn't mean anybody's going to lose names without getting paid. Nobody's going to lose money. All it means is that the auction system was basically broken, and anybody, either intentionally or in some weird edge cases by accident, could have bought the name at the lowest price before the auction had actually reached that time. It isn't. Yeah, right. And so I discovered this bug while working on the Handshake Tarot, which had a lot of batching. So I wrote a lot of my own custom Shakedex code. That's when I discovered the bug. I disclosed it securely to Kuru Miyamari and to Jackie. We'll probably release a blog post about the timeline. Right. This was also about the time that Jackie and Kuru Miyamari were sort of drifting away from the project. And so it took a long time to get fixed. The whole Handshake Tarot auction, I was nervous that this bug was going to break it. So it's a little embarrassing because of how slow it took us to get to the point where we're at now. But Rithvik and I have been working together on this. This is the reason why Shakedex has been down for a week. What we decided to do, we fixed the software. We're just trying to figure out a way to deploy it at the right time. what we did was we looked at all the names that were open auction on Shakedex and waited till they all expired. So all the names that were on Shakedex are already on their lowest price right now. That's when we closed the website. So there's no chance of this being an attack or anybody accidentally buying a name for the lowest price, because all the names are at their floor price already. So when Shakedex reopens, we fixed the software, we fixed the Shakedex client, we've added those fixes into Bob Wallet. And when Bob Wallet v10 is released, users who have names on Shakedex will get a series of very clear warnings and very clear buttons on how they can repost their auctions to Shakedex. So the old auction Shakedex files will not work anymore. You can throw them out. When Shakedex comes back online, it will not accept the old files anymore. Bob Wallet will not accept the old auction files anymore. We're basically starting Shakedex over, and this time the lock time is going to work. So luckily, this bug was never exploited in the wild. Nobody used it as an attack or by mistake. It took a long time. That's because of maybe our low human resources on the project, and because Kurumi and Jackie sort of were hard to get a hold of the past couple of months. But Kurumi Amari is on board, has given Rithvik and myself access to the GitHub repo and to the website. And so one thing we can look forward to in Bob is a new version of Shakedex, which everything's going to work the same way. It's just actually going to be secure this time.
Okay. That's good. That's good news.
Yeah.
So when I know dates are always hard. When are we looking at for that?
Right. We're going to, it depends on Rithvik, who's now wrapping up Bob version 10. So this is maybe the next thing that
let's go to the next point then. Okay. Bob V10.
Yeah. So right. So Bob V10 is going to include the latest version of HSD version 4.0.1. We'll talk about that in the next chunk. But so Bob is going to inherit a lot of cool new features from HSD. It's going to have the Shakedex update. Bob Wallet is also going to have HIP2, which is something I know you've been excited about.
Yeah, I've been really excited for that.
And I think it was mostly Luke Burns' work. I forget who the other contributors were, the reviewers. So, Bob Wallet isn't totally my domain, but Bob Wallet V10 will have HIP2, where you can type in somebody's handshake name and it will use HIP2 to retrieve their address securely with Dane. So this is another kind of cool thing that Bob is actually resolving handshake names and verifying Dane inside Bob Wallet for the purposes of sending to usernames. A couple other points about the Bob release that Rithvik told me about. You can export your transaction list as a CSV file. Some bug fixes, like if you've ever had the experience where you needed to repair a bid, if you restored your wallet from seed or installed your wallet on another computer and the secret bid value was missing, and you have to kind of guess it if you don't remember it. Rithvik added basically a brute force mechanism where Bob Wallet will spend like a minute or two basically trying every possible bid value to try to help you figure out what it was. So hopefully stuff like that will be a little bit more automatic. Nice. They've also added a search feature in the domain manager. And Trim wanted me to mention that Bob Wallet now has Spanish and Catalan translations. So that's another cool thing that Bob Wallet has added is we have the internationalization package. So it can be translated into other languages. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Okay. So any questions about Bob or Shakedex? You can move on to HSD.
Well, I think HSD is going to include that part that I'm excited about. But so I think that's covered in the next one. But, just for maybe some people that might not know HIP2, well, I think you kind of mentioned it, but it's called WellKnown Wallet, I believe. Basically, it's one that like you said, I'm excited about because if somebody has a handshake name, you could just send money to that name and it will automatically go to the HNS address. Actually, it doesn't have to be the address that the name is in. You could put any address that you want, and it could even be other. Is it for other crypto yet, or it's probably just for HNS right now?
Bob Wallet only does.
Bob Wallet is only there, but a HIP2 could be for anything that HIP2.
Correct. Yeah, if Bob Wallet ever adds like a Bitcoin wallet or something, which is a possible feature in the future, then they could use HIP2 to get Bitcoin addresses too from handshake names, which is cool.
Great. Got it. Okay. Those are my points. Yeah.
All right. So I'll share again. We'll talk about DV4. So everything I'm going to mention about HSD v4 is also going to be included in the next version of Bob. And probably the most exciting thing about this that Nodar and myself have been working on for 6 months, but especially the last 2 or 3 months, is Urkel tree compaction. So in Bitcoin, we have the blockchain, In Handshake, we have the blockchain, and we also have the Urkel tree. The Urkel tree is a separate data structure that stores all the DNS names and their root zone records. And it's described in the white paper, the technical stuff behind it. It's an append-only data structure. This is an optimization to make it work fast and make it work with the compact proofs that the founders wanted. What it means is that the Urkel tree grows forever and just eats up disk. And this is the trade-off. Basically, the trade-off is that Urkel tree can work quickly and produce compact proofs, but the trade-off is it's just going to eat up your disk. And that means that every time a name is updated, if you think about a database, you think okay, I got the name Mike, and first the value is 0, and then later on he changes it to 1, then he changes it to 2. Each of those updates, if you think about a database, it's not really taking up more data. You got your name and you got your value, and you just update it. The way that Urkel tree works is every time a name is updated, it adds data to the disk. It doesn't delete the old data or replace the old data. It just keeps adding. And so that means every reveal updates a name state. Every register, update, transfer. If you have a name and you've updated it 100 times, all 100 of those previous updates are still on your disk. Obviously, only the latest one matters, right? So when JJ implemented the Urkel tree, he added this function which allows us to delete the old state, the previous 9 updates, all the reveals and stuff like that. All you really need is that latest state. So, this is consensus critical data. It took a lot of time to make sure that we weren't breaking anything, or, that there were these weird edge cases with the Urkel tree and the blockchain would get out of sync. Some people have experienced this if their disk gets full or if HSD crashes in a weird way, that the two data structures will be out of sync. And so Nodar and I did a lot of work getting that. Anyway, here's the results. Bottom line is, when you upgrade to Bob 0.10, the first time you open it, it will clear probably about 15 to 16 gigabytes of space off your disk. This is awesome. Obviously, Bob will do that automatically every couple of months when you open it. So we're gonna kind of have to see. I know Bob Wallet users are already used to, when they upgrade, there being a migration. When you upgrade to the new Bob Wallet version, the first time you open it, there'll be a couple minutes where Bob is like, "We're processing a migration, blah blah blah," and you won't be able to use Bob Wallet for 2 minutes while it's deleting 15 gigabytes of data. And then every couple of months, Bob is going to do that again. So hopefully this will keep disk usage lower in Bob Wallet. And we have some more optimizations for that coming up in the future, but I'm just really happy about this one because one of our goals in core development is making the full node easier to run, less resource intensive. And so I think this is a really exciting feature.
Yeah, I'm excited because this exact laptop, I can't hold current Bob because it's a Mac Air and it's already overheating, I think, even on this recording. So okay. I have it on we've talked about it, I have it on our computer. But so it'll be what's the size now? 15 gigs or so? About?
Yeah, it just for the Urkel tree. The blockchain still takes up some space, I forget what it is, somewhere between 4 and 10 gigabytes or something. But this will help clear up a lot of space.
Great.
Some other stuff we could talk about that doesn't really affect, just looking at this really quick, checkpoints, yes. Atomicity issue. Okay, most of this stuff is a little deeper than what Bob Wallet users really will need to know. For developers, there's some more cool stuff. You can just check the release notes. This is also the first version of HSD that we've released using Nodar's release schedule. So we have the way we're branching on GitHub is a little different, and we have these release notes now instead of just a generic change log. Nodar also has a script that compiles all the contributions. So what we're looking at now is all the pull requests that were merged to create HSD version 4. And it's great to see all the contributors: Luke Burns, Fauci, Nodar, Buffer, myself, even some old stuff. I think Sean Kilpatty is in here. We were able to use some really old pull requests and get those into.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's it. And for HSD version 5, which will come out in October, I think we can also reduce disk usage even more by upgrading the indexer module. And over the next couple of weeks, I'm excited about looking at the HSD backlog and merging some more wallet features and bug fixes that people have been asking about.
Great.
So that's HSD v4. Next thing we could talk about, I guess, is fun stuff. So something that's fun is palmreader. Can you see my terminal screen now? Can you see palmreader?
Yeah, I see terminal. Yep. I see it.
Okay. So this is something I've been working on. I guess it's sort of turned into an art project for me. I wanted to create a wallet that supports ledger and multisig. And we could talk about the gateway multisig and how that's going and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But multisig is becoming a really popular request in the community. It adds security. Gateway is doing this thing where a TLD owner can deposit their name into a multisig that is a 2 of 3 multisig held by Gateway, the TLD owner, and myself. And any two of those parties can sign a transaction. So I still need to publish my policy. Basically, my role is just to be used in case of an emergency, but ideally the Gateway and the TLD owner can agree all the time on what transactions need to be signed. And having me as an extra key just offers basically an extra backup route. And having more than one key just in general is just good security practice. It means if Gateway gets hacked, your TLD is still safe. It requires at least one other party to be hacked. I am using my Ledger device for all the Gateway multisig, so that's another little added layer of security.
Awesome.
So multisig is going to come to Bob Wallet eventually. I started working on it, and then Chris from Namebase started working on it at the same time. And when he kind of took over multisig, and I started working on palmreader instead. This is palmreader. It runs in the terminal. Stuff on this screen is actually clickable. These are buttons that pop up little modals, and you can click stuff, even though it is a terminal update, even though it's a terminal UI. It's got a lot of wallet features besides Ledger, and I got my, this is reg test, so I'm just kind of showing like a fake balance here. You can create wallets, import seed phrase. It almost does everything Bob can do except atomic swaps, which I want to add eventually. It has an RPC console. I can type get peer info in here. I don't have any peers because it's a reg test. So it has a lot of advanced features, and I have been using PalmReader for the Gateway multisig. It's just about ready to release. And I was not making it simple like Bob. This could be the advanced wallet. This could be the wallet that and Circa and Pork Bun and Gateway use. Could be the wallet that we ask TLD owners use for multisig on Gateway. I am trying to make it as easy to use as possible. It's a little hard to install right now, but I think I can make it easier. And of course, my goal is to if Mike McElhaney can download it and double click and open it and use it, then I'm like,
I guess I'll be a good test if I can figure it out. I'll try to make a video of it once I figure it out.
We can go into it later.
Yeah.
Once it's out.
We can. So just to be clear, it's still going to take disk space. Of course, you still got to download HSD and the Urkel tree and the blockchain data on your local machine.
Correct. Yeah. Just like Bob Wallet, PalmReader is also just HSD with a UI interface. However, I am designing PalmReader in such a way that the HSD can be more flexible. So it could support prune mode and SPV like Bob Wallet. And I'm also, Bob Wallet doesn't do pruning yet. And also Bob Wallet requires address and transaction indexers, which is a feature that I don't think everybody really needs. And so PalmReader is written in a way that it could be more flexible with the full node. So there could be some options for people to use less disk space by switching to PalmReader. I'm also going to make it so that PalmReader can take over from Bob Wallet if you want to do that. It can read the data from the Bob Wallet directory. And so you can even run them both theoretically, and want to make sure that is going to be safe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could use it on the same machine with the same HSD data.
Right.
You wouldn't have to have it twice. Right. Yeah.
That's the goal. Yeah. Is that if you already have Bob installed, you can install PalmReader with the same blockchain data and even access the same wallets from Bob, but you get the multisig features, which is the goal. The goal of PalmReader is to have Ledger and multisig together.
Cool.
Which we needed urgently for the gateway stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be missing a lot of features that Bob Wallet users are used to, like watch lists and just a lot of stuff like that. So I'm a little nervous about making it open source and releasing it, because right now it does everything that Matt Zipkin wants it to do, and it works on Matt Zipkin's computer. And as soon as I release it, I know it's just going to be like, this doesn't work, and I want it to do this, and I want it to do that. It doesn't work on Windows, and I've been procrastinating release, but it's about time. And Nathan Woodburn and a couple other people have been great at testing it out, even in its alpha state.
Nice.
So I'm already getting some good feedback about it.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it's all fun stuff. All right, so thank you. And then the last thing I guess we could talk about is, this is now HIP 14. This is a hard fork proposal.
Yeah.
And I'm calling it Thumb Wrestle. because I think that's a funny name. So I have a tweet-sized abstract here. The simplest description of this is it's a hard fork to extend the name claim period. When the founders launched Handshake, as you know, there was a list of about 90,000 names that were reserved for the legacy name holders, and they have 4 years to claim those names. When they claim, they get a reward and they get the name for free. And then after 4 years, any of those names can be open for auction, just like the other 5 million names that are already on the Handshake blockchain. So that means if we do not change anything, there will be a moment in Handshake's future in about a year and a half when names like Google, Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Com.org, Info, Pornhub, whatever, Yahoo, all those names can be open for new auctions, all at the same block with no rollout. Of course, there's a maximum amount of opens per block. I think it's either 300 or 600. But either way, like if we don't do anything, there's a point in the future where all those names will be available if they haven't been claimed. So if VeriSign claims Com in the next year and a half, no worries like that. But if they don't, and Com goes up for auction and somebody wins it on the Handshake blockchain, then applications like Fingertip and Beacon and HSD and everybody who's resolving Handshake names is going to have to do extra work to filter those names out. Because let's be honest. Well, and this is an opinion. So this is a controversial thing, but I'm just telling you like technically what the consequences are. Now, you might be of the opinion that VeriSign has got 4 years to claim Com. And if they don't deserve it anymore. Com now belongs to the Handshake root zone. The Handshake root zone is the only root zone that matters. Com should go up for auction. It should be fair. People should bid on it. Someone should win it. And whoever wins that auction is Com from now on. If you believe that, you should oppose this hard fork. And that's a very valid opinion to have. The reason that I wrote this improvement proposal and the corresponding code is because there seems to be a lot of people in the community who feel the opposite, that 4 years isn't enough for people like VeriSign to claim Com. So what this does is it extends that name claim period to 8 years. The changes are pretty simple. The reserved name claim list is basically separated into 3 categories. There's there's custom names like Namecheap, GoDaddy, ICANN. These names got special allotments by the founders that are mentioned in the white paper. Then there are ICANN TLDs, Com.org, Info, Net. Then there are the Alexa top 100,000, and in particular, the top 100 are in a separate category. So what I was proposing is that the custom names like ICANN, the TLDs like Com.org, Info, and the top 100 like Apple, Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, Yahoo, be extended to 8 years. This requires a hard fork. The other 89,000 or so Alexa names, these are the weird ones that are like pornfreak123.org and, like cats on grass eating milk.info, whatever, that somehow ended up in the Alexa top 100. My opinion is that those can just expire after 4 years like normal, because what's happening now is people are just waiting for those names to expire in the ICANN DNS, claim them. So I don't feel as much urgency to extend those, although people in the community have different opinions about that, think that those names should be extended as well. There's also additional opinions that the ICANN TLDs should never, ever go up for auction. That's not covered by this hard fork because that is still something that we can do later with a soft fork. I even have like a section, so it's very specific. This was fun for me to write. My opinion about this, I'm actually quite neutral. I had an idea on how to implement it code-wise, and so I was inspired to just kind of write this up. There's been a lot of people talking about doing a hard fork or changing the reserved name claim period. So I was motivated to solve that problem. Now there is this solution to that problem, and I kind of want the community to talk about whether or not we should deploy it on their own, or whether or not some things about this should be changed. I even at the bottom of this document have example opinions. So if you're not technical, you don't understand it very well, this is what I'm saying, is that some of the reserved names will be extended for an extra 4 years. There are some reasons that you would want that. There's some reasons that you would not. If you want the name Amazon to open for auction in a year and a half because you want to buy it on Handshake, you should oppose this fork because you want that name to go to auction so that you can buy it. Some people think that those names should never be released. Some people think that they should have, the original owner should have more time to claim them. And then there's some minutia in the community about whether the rewards associated with these names should be the same, or maybe they drop as well. Hard forks in general means that everybody needs to change their software. Absolutely everybody. Every single Bob wallet, every exchange, every mining pool, every block explorer, Miami, HNS network, F2 pool, Namecheap, Gateway, everybody running Bob needs to upgrade. People who only run Fingertip and Beacon will not need to upgrade. And there's some interesting technical stuff there, because what we can do is make a new version of the Light client that can detect a hard fork. Sometimes there's a problem with a hard fork. If enough people disagree with this and they get some miners, when the hard fork deploys, we could end up with Handshake Classic. If there are people like, no, .com needs to expire on time, and they get some miners behind them, that this is what a hard fork is. It's a chain split. There will be people out there who will claim that, like the Bitcoin Cash, that their version of hard fork or of Handshake is the correct one or whatever. And Light clients can be very confused by that. Fingertip and Beacon may switch back and forth between hard forks. So there's an extra detail in this proposal that can help Light clients stay on the hard fork that they want to be on. Anyway, that's it. So the proposal is here, and Mike, I'll send you the links on Telegram afterwards. Okay, you can read the English version of the proposal. I actually wrote the code. This isn't a pull request yet. It was just sort of an experiment to see how the hard fork could look. I wanted to actually write the code to make sure that it was a reasonable thing. And then discussion wise, so in the HSD issues, I have pinned this issue. This was opened by Fauci back in October. This is where people are sort of discussing whether or not we should extend the name claim period. I still think this issue is a good place to discuss whether or not we should. The HIP itself is a good place to discuss maybe the individual rules. Maybe some people think it should be 12 years instead of 8. That kind of thing we can talk about on the proposal itself. What's also going to be important is for people to announce whether or not they will run software that deploys this hard fork. That's going to be especially important for people who have service providers. So mining pools, block explorers, obviously, if Naybase opposes this hard fork, it will simply just not happen. If F2 pool opposes this hard fork, it will not happen. That's kind of the way it is. And then, if Bob Wallet, if Kyokan decides that they don't want to include the hard fork in the next version of Bob Wallet, everybody can run their own software, but there are some people who represent huge chunks of the community and huge chunks of economic activity within the community, and their points of centralization and their votes matter more. I don't know how else to say it. So it'll be interesting to see how people like Richard from Namecheap respond to this proposal, and Wang Chun from F2 Pool, and just the community in general. So this is a conversation everybody should be having. What this hard fork doesn't cover is all kinds of other stuff, like reclaiming the ICANN distribution and setting up a developer fund. Doesn't talk about cutting off the developer airdrop or redistributing those funds or anything like that. Just trying to stay focused with this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think from what I've been down a rabbit hole the last few years more than ever on blockchains, and I think it's better to keep it focused, because if there's too many different pieces to vote on or agree on, it will probably be harder to agree on, or some people will agree at one point but not the other point. So it probably makes sense to keep it's simple, but at the same time, the other side of the argument is it takes a lot of time to create this and to do this. So the other stuff, I guess, it's hard, because there's a lot of debate about the the airdrops and I saw a really interesting one. I don't know if you saw it in that. There's some various groups. I won't say names, but they said maybe allow wallets to expire and then get used as a bounty for an exchange to pick it up. Did you see that one? Somebody, yeah. I won't say who, you probably maybe know who, but they were saying maybe because Coinbase might pick it up if they can claim a huge chunk if they put on the exchange or something like that. That would be. Yeah,
that's interesting. We could take, I can get something like a 24 million HNS allotment. We could just move that to Coinbase. If Coinbase claims their name,
exactly.
ICANN's on. So yeah, it's interesting. I like how the white paper describes these allotments as being no strings attached. Obviously, the Coinbase thing would be strings attached, but if that's what the community wants to do, that could be an interesting route to go. Yeah.
So even me, I guess there's not really it's not like a vote. Like it's not like you submit yes or no, right? You can leave comments on the GitHub, and then how do we get consensus or?
Yeah, it's hard because Handshake is not a proof of stake DAO. Although it is in a way, because what I just said, like Namebase, F2 Pool, and Kyokon like have huge stake. And also it's simple for let's say Mike McLeany owns 1,000,000 HNS and 10,000 names. You could tweet or write a comment and be like, look, I'm a huge stakeholder in HNS and I can prove it cryptographically if you want me to. And I think we should do this. So yes, there's no really great way to vote. And voting is hard, especially on something like GitHub or Twitter or whatever, because anybody could just create 1,000,000 accounts and say and try to convince people that, it's hard to vote. So I'm not sure what we're going to do. I don't know. We need the large stakeholders to say what they're going to do. And we need everybody to voice their opinion, try to influence those large stakeholders. And if you really feel strongly one way or another, you got to get a group together and try to make your voice heard and try to convince other people. The Bitcoin segregated witness soft fork took way too long to deploy because there was infighting and mudslinging and conspiracy theories and all kinds of stuff. And I hope we don't go through that. But that is how you get a decentralized community to come to consensus. We all need to actually be paying attention to Twitter and Reddit and GitHub discussions and try to see if somebody has a really good point about why we should or should not do this fork. And that applies to any software, any hard fork software, any protocol change.
Okay. So I guess I'll say some of my questions. So then the proposal is set. Is that going to change, or what you just showed is what we're agreeing on? There's nothing to be added or removed. That what
Good
is
question.
there now is what will stay, or if say, hey, somebody says, hey, add this or change that, will that happen, or will that, what is there? Okay, I think you get the question.
Good question. Yeah. So the status is that I have opened a pull request to the HIP repo with the first draft of the proposal, and people are commenting on that pull request right now. So if you think that we should change the 8 years to 12 years, you could comment on the pull request for the proposal. The proposal hasn't even been merged into the HIP repo yet. Even once it has been merged, people are still welcome to propose additions or changes to it by making other pull requests. And eventually the proposal itself, written in English, will be ossified, and at least the developer community will agree that this is the proposal that we want to write code for. And then it goes to the community discussion and she's like, okay, now that we have the proposal, should we even bother writing the code? Will anybody run the code if we write it? And the community kind of makes that decision. So there are two sort of discussions happening. The hard fork discussion and the reserved name claim period discussion is all over the place. And so I wrote this proposal to just be like, well, how about this? This is one proposal. And hopefully we can fine tune it now. So I'm trying to bring it down and just decide on one proposal, and the technical people can argue about the technical details, and the community at large can talk about whether or not they want to do it at all. And like I said, I'll give you 2 links later for where those 2 discussions are happening. So everything is totally open for discussion. The timeline, by the way, so the existing current unchanged reserve name claim period lasts 4 years after the Genesis block was created. So we're about 1.5 years away from that now, which means if we do nothing, like I said, in 1.5 years, all those names can be open for auction. If there is a hard fork, that day will be the day that the hard fork happens, because what we will enable is that one block after that 4-year moment, somebody can claim a reserve name. That's something that they would not be able to do before the hard fork. That's the whole point. So no matter what happens over the next 1.5 years, if there is a hard fork, it should really happen on that day, 1.5 years from now. That's our looming deadline. We need to basically, if we want to deploy this hard fork, we need to get everybody, all their software upgraded by that date.
Got it. I guess realistically, what's the time frame? End of July, you think? I mean, it's hard to that we should confirm or I haven't gone through
Well,
this, so I don't know.
yeah. I mean, if I have a a timeline example sort of in the HIP itself. We're
Okay.
going to try to release HSD twice a year. So HSD 4 just came out really late. It's supposed to be April and October. HSD 5 hopefully comes out in October. HSD 6 hopefully comes out April 2023.
Nice.
So if we're going to do this, and then I think the hard fork would be would be like January 2024, I think is when the reserve thing would expire. So we basically got HSD 5, 6, and 7 before the hard fork date. So that's sort of my thinking. So what we could do is like maybe we don't get any changes into HSD 5. That basically gives us a year to write the hard fork code that everybody's happy with, and we'll release it in HSD version 6, which will be April 2023. And then by October 2023, everybody should have upgraded. HSD version 7 will go out also with the hard fork code, and then HSD 7 will be the version of Handshake that hard forks in January 2024.
Got it.
Yeah. So the urgency, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, we basically have a year to get this code released if we want to hard, and that's plenty of time.
You made me just think of some other points. Like some people in the community, there seems like there's very strong two sides about getting access to the airdrop, right? Like you mentioned, it's not in this proposal, but some people really seem to argue, hey, why give ICANN that money, or why give these other companies that haven't even tried to get it yet? Why not put it back into the community? Which does sound, it does sound nice, right? Like, even if I don't get, hopefully maybe I could get some support for this channel or others. I don't know how it would be distributed, but then some people argue that's making it centralized, and there, how do we decide who gets what? But even if that was approved, that would take a long time to do, right? To get that access to those funds, to change that seems like it would also take a long time.
It depends on how we do it. And you're right. Like if there's certain things, like we wanted to end the airdrop or end the reserve name claim or reduce ICANN's allotment to 0, those things are soft forks and they can happen much quicker. Like
those would be soft forks.
Right. If we're bringing a limit down.
That's it. Okay.
The hard fork is when you take somebody's money and give it to someone else, right? That should be a hard fork, right? Think about like the Ethereum DAO attack that happened, whatever that was, 2014 or 15 or something. They had Ethereum, they had this blockchain, somebody stole all this money, and then they did a hard fork to steal that money back, literally. Like they just reversed the transaction on the blockchain. They moved money from one account to another account with a hard fork. So if we do want to do something like move ICANN's 24 million HS allotment to another address or to another party like Coinbase, or if we want to do something like every miner is required to split their block reward with some type of multi-sig address, developer fund kind of thing, that stuff is hard forks too. So since we are talking about deploying a hard fork in a year and a half, if you really want to include something like that, we might as well pack it into the same hard fork. And the timeline is still long, though. It's still a year and a half or more away before that money could really be moved, because I think that's about how long it's going to take.
Wow.
We could try to do a hard fork sooner if we really need to move that money like an emergency, and then deal with the main claim and hard fork later. I don't know.
Got it. Thanks for that. Yeah, I really appreciate you, sharing this, and I think that covers these points. But yeah, like you said, like I think the goal here is to get more people involved. I know a lot of people think Namebase is Handshake, and there's this, we all like Namebase, like they serve their purpose in the community, but there's more than Namebase, right? Obviously. And I think a lot of people still maybe don't know that or aren't aware. So there's this huge world, right? Like, so that's why I hope today, actually all of what we talked about today is these things that are happening, and the hard fork, of course, is a really big one. So I hope people take this serious, and, we're all directors. That's what they say, right? In the white paper, anybody that has a coin or a name has, their say, and we want to hear their feedback, even if they don't feel like they're a whale or whatever, or we want people to be involved with this. So That's really great, Matt. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there points on that? I mean, we did dSLDs, but I think we.
Let's talk about that when I got something more substantial for you.
Yeah, I think we can get back to that. Or like you said, maybe there's some others. There's some updates of people joining Namebase and other communities. There's a lot of talk about dSLDs, and it seems like it's happening. There's more happening with that. I have one question for you, if you don't mind me asking about dSLDs. Could a CSLD or like Gateway.io, could they convert to dSLDs, or even like Namecheap seems like Richard there is really adamant about making dSLDs. So could he convert all these centralized SLDs to decentralized? I mean, is that maybe, I know you're more technical than me, so it might be a huge loaded question, but I think I asked Kiba, I was chatting to Kiba, and he was kind of confused me, but he says it could happen, but the resolver would have to first check if it's a centralized TL. I have to have some kind of logic in this resolver to check the domain, is what Kiba told me.
The biggest problem for decentralized subdomains is that they will not be DNS, because regular DNS can't really do this. So, the way Forever works is it uses Ethereum. That means fingertip, beacon browser need to have some type of Ethereum blockchain access, either the full node, hopefully, if you want to be fully secure, or it just uses the Infura API, which is common and unfortunate. But every time you add one of these, if you want to use Skynet for your decentralized or IPFS or Ethereum or Polygon or Cardano, now you're asking users who just want to install Beacon on their phone or fingertip on a browser, now you're asking them to verify like 5 or 6 different blockchains. That is I think there's some inevitability to that. I think people love bridges and cross-chain stuff and tokenizing and making NFTs that, this is definitely going to happen. Personally, my focus is on making websites work. And so the decentralized SLD solutions that I've been thinking of are avoiding other blockchains altogether. I think I'll tell you my point. I'll tell you my ideas for dSLDs. I think HNS should be the currency used to make those purchases. I think we should do it without another blockchain. And I think whatever the solution is needs to scale. Like I asked James Stevens this question. He said that .com and .net in the ICANN space probably make about 1 million database updates per day. So if every single one, if we decentralized SLD space and everybody and all the SLDs are on Ethereum, and we're talking about 1 million Ethereum transactions per day to truly decentralize, So I don't think putting DSLDs on any one or even multiple blockchains is going to scale. I've got some ideas about how we can use the Handshake blockchain and extend it minimally so that we can have a marketplace for resolvers and distribute the zone data, not in any type of consensus system like Ethereum. Basically expand the Handshake consensus system just slightly to allow us to put the data anywhere. And then we can have, we won't need to put all 1 million updates per day on the same system. It's not all going to go on Ethereum. It's just everybody updates their own SLD on different servers, and we can find the information that way instead of having to go through a central channel. So there, I ended up talking about my dSLD idea kind of.
We squeeze it out of you. I know it's been longer than we expected, but honestly, I think, I don't know. I think a lot of people do want also for the tokenomics. I think people want more uses for HNS token or coin, coin. But obviously that is a good use case is that. And I hope that can happen because I also want to keep things in Handshake as the ecosystem. I also want that. And I think others do too,
Oh, but your question was, can you convert from centralized to decentralized? I mean, sure. The centralized SLD list, Namebase Gateway, they have a database that would have with usernames and what SLDs they own and how long they own them for. If they wanted to decentralize that, any of these systems would work, either putting them on Ethereum like Forever, or the system that Aaron AOX is proposing, or the thing that I'm imagining that is kind of described. What you would need to do to fully make that transition is get all your users' private key or public keys. And, however you're going to distribute them, if they're all going to be on Ethereum, for example, you need to, Namebase would need to ask all their users for an Ethereum address, and then they would send the SLDs they own to them on Ethereum. And then
I understand. Well, I guess what I was saying to Kiba in some private messages was, I think Unstoppable, what they do is they sell them centralized and then they let you mint them on a per SLD basis to, I don't know if they let you choose. I actually have some, I should check, but I guess maybe I don't want to say they're the best example, but it's kind of like you can then put it on you can pay the gas fees and then move it to put your address and then send it to that blockchain address and then burn it, I guess, or it's not really burning, but take it off your centralized exchange and then move it over. That's where and then keep it says as possible, but then you have to have them check first if a centralized resolver is there. If not, move to decentralized resolver there on each SLD in that TLDs.
Yeah, that's a good point. I see what he was talking about. You might have to be like all or nothing, like move the entire zone.
Yeah,
like
his guy was.
Yeah, like either all .c domains go from centralized to decentralized, but I'm sure there's a way to bridge it too, because Namebase, like if you have Mike.c and it's centralized, but you move it to decentralized, then all Namebase have to do is take the Mike.c record and put some other type of record there that tells the resolver they need to go look at the decentralized solution, some kind of pointer. Maybe it's a HIP5 record, and then HIP5 resolvers would just work. So it is a problem, but I don't foresee that being a big issue. I think the scaling is the biggest issue, is like handling all the data, millions of subdomains updating a million times a day. And, if we really want Handshake to take over DNS and do what DNS does, I don't think it's all going to be able to live on any one single blockchain.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, we're at the hour marks. I think that's perfect. And then, we'll put your links. Is there any other things you want to add before we wrap up the recording?
Nope. Thanks for being so handsome and such a great upstanding guy.
Try my best, Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a good and a bad about decentralized, right? I mean, it seems like, again, I mean, I knew about Bitcoin way back in 2011 and 12. Unfortunately, sold really too early, but I don't get into that. But there's not really many decentralized communities in blockchain. I still see most of those, I guess people call them shit coins. I'm starting to understand for a reason, because they really are centralized. Like, it's like there's a team and there's the coin holder, token holders, right? And then they're like, in the Telegram groups are like, when update, when release. It's like there's the full-time staff that's under the foundation or whatever, is the guy that has all the money. And then there's these sucker people that are the gamblers that bought token, right? But I feel like there's not many that are like feel like this pure. But the challenge of this is like, we did this 1 hour talk and we're trying to get people like to pick this up on Twitter and YouTube and Discord to watch this and to understand it and to like contribute. Or I understand both sides, and then there's this kind of debate now in the community, like, shouldn't we get that money, hard fork that money and give it to those people like us, not us specifically, but give it to the people that have been grinding on this for 2 years, right? And instead of the people that have ignored it or didn't see there's like millions of dollars sitting on a blockchain waiting for them to just grab, right? Like, why can't it go to the people that are putting the blood, sweat, and tears? So, but then it would make it maybe back, then it would convert it to a centralized kind of system where we're all like asking for permission or asking somebody for approval, whatever. But anyway, it's something for all of us to think about as a society, right? As a community. But it's exciting. I'm really happy. Yeah. Actually, the last part is, Wallet just went out, and I couldn't wait for it. I talked to Scott, the TLD owner, and there's already people saying, "What about my Unstoppable.wallet?" Because Unstoppable has .wallet, and I'm like, yeah, they have it. And then they're like, but isn't that not fair to Handshake? Handshake's coming after them. I'm like, no, Scott paid 350,000 HNS for that on auction before Unstoppable released the name. You can look it up. It's on chain. He paid 350,000 HNS. He says in an interview, we talked to him, that he put all his money into this. Like, I don't know, it's a 30-minute, it's nothing as long as this one, but So why is it fair for some kind of centralized VC-backed Silicon Valley startup that just creates .wallet out of thin air and sells centralized SLDs to collect all that money when somebody like Scott is just like he's like a normal person, but he spent 350,000 HNS and he won it fair and square in the auction. Why can't he sell? Or he's not even selling them; he's giving them away. Why can't he do that? So it's a fun discussion.
Yeah, the collision with unstoppable domains is going to be awesome PR, and hopefully it'll create a market event where the market will compare .wallet on both systems and see what the advantages are.
Yeah. I mean, I responded because it's literally my response, and I'm going to probably add more to that blog post, but I said, it's actually unstoppable that collided with the handshake, not the other way around.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. Okay. I'll stop here, but it's fun stuff.